your good paying job, the benefits that that good paying job offers you compared to you starting your own business and passing that down as a family tradition or an inheritance, right? So what else do we have to strive for outside of white validation? Black excellence still seeks white validation.
As you say that, I see Jay-Z standing on the Grammys stage.
Puffy checking the people at the Grammys and missing the BET Awards. Rather than making our BET Awards the Grammys or making our Black Hollywood like the Oscars, we want to fight with them about what's been.
And making their show better for us.
But their show isn't strictly for us.
Right.
Right? So it's no difference than us once having the Negro League, and the Negro League was doing so good, it brought them to us.
But who do we blame for the apathy right now with Black excellence? Is it Black folks? Is it white folks? Is it social media?
You don't blame nobody. You look in the mirror and blame you.
If you're not contributing to
If you're not contributing. So it's kind of like, that's what brought me to the community, right? I'm traveling around the country, and I was partnering with a national lobbyist group out of Washington, D.C. that was called the Campaign Fair Sentencing of Youth. So I became a member of a national youth advocacy program that was called ICANN, Incarcerated Children's Advocacy Network. And so I learned about fundraising. I learned about all these different things. And so throughout traveling and speaking in all these different places and working on laws and legislation, you would hear people say, well, you become the change that you want to see in your community. That was the greatest challenge that I had ever heard. Mm-hmm. You go become the change that you want to see in the community. So in order to do that, I had to change my belief system.
And what was your belief system at the time?
I believed the culture. Mm-hmm. I believe real niggas went and done time and suffered in agony. And they died with pride, only to not know that's not the truth. Mm-hmm. I believe that 4 friends riding in the car, one friend should take the charge for all the friends if he could.
I think what he said about making the awards, that's one thing. Black excellence seeking white validation. I think in some instances we've definitely seen that with Kanye. The example he gave in terms of Jay-Z and, Diddy at the time, you're complaining to people that don't care. They're not worried about that. Instead of standing on that stage and telling them what they're not doing for you, you guys are in positions where you can create the gold standard. And that's why when we think of award shows, we look down on the BET Awards. And I think part of that reason is because people haven't poured into that. You know what I mean? And that's throughout the community. That falls from that level of success to even on a local level. I can't tell you how many times, I look down my Facebook feed and, you'll have people starting their own businesses. And you see the amount of criticism that a Black person gets when you know that the circumstances that it took for them to even put this together were dire. You know that they're starting out and it's not going to be, it's not the final product, but they get so much criticism from that it kind of demoralizes them. And everybody just piles on, So I think definitely when you see a struggling Black business or I think we should pour into them more. You know what I mean? Like, what do you need? What can I do? How can I help? I think we need to do a lot more of that instead of saying, oh, well, that's why I don't deal with Black businesses. I don't care if the business is Black or white. I'm going to do somebody that's going to get the job done. I think to an extent, that's how we feel, but we need to take in consideration what it took to even get that business off the ground, and I think we need to do more to pour into those and empower them, instead of going to a white business and say, why don't you serve us? Or why don't you help the community? That's not what they're there for. That's not their objective.
If I got to be a little honest too, and this is something that I often run across, is that typically there's a certain crowd of black folks, right? And when they come and they find out about a new establishment, or maybe it might have been a predominantly white establishment, and when the black folks come in, it's that they ruin it. Like they ruin the experience. They come in, they're kind of reckless, and so that's the reason why you see so many of these rules as far as no gym shoes, no ball caps, and even when you walk in certain establishments, they still are profiling. But depending on how you dress it up, is going to determine if you're able to come in. Like sometimes when black folks discover something new, they be like, "Well, I'm not going to tell such and such because I don't want them to come in there, and I don't want a whole bunch of black folks to start coming in here, and then it's ruined." So I think a lot has to fall. It's easy said than done when it comes to say us showing support, because how are we showing support? Like when we are bringing a certain type of culture in it, and it's not necessarily coming from the good part of the culture, but it's negative. I mean, I was on I ain't gonna lie, I felt real embarrassed. I was on a plane a couple weeks ago, and this big ass dude, right? I'm not trying to body shame, but he's big as hell, and had his pants hanging out his ass. He was smelling like he just packaged up. He might have had it on. My daddy had it on him to be able to make it through a TSA, but he still smelled like he just came from it. And it wasn't a full flight, and it was a middle seat right inside of me. I'm like, damn, I hope this dude do not sit his ass right here. I'm like, damn, I should have just sat closer to the front, because he had walked to the back, and then they had walked him back up to the front. I could see the the flight attendants. They just like, I know they wanted to say this end, and everybody just looking like, damn. I mean, there's a lot of other things I could say, but I don't want to come off wrong. But I'm just like, man. But
He has shit in his ass, right? That's what you're trying to say.
I mean, he was dressed. I mean, he had the backpack. They had a designer backpack, pants hanging down. He had a big chain. Smelling like he just got through packaging up. It was just unnecessary. So I said it all to say is that's the type of image that's coming in, and I don't know his behavior. He could be a good guy. I am looking at what I typically will see that's associated with it. But when he's coming in, now they have to manage the business differently. Now they have to start turning people around. And even when you think about kitchen and cocktails, right? And I know he blew up off the viral moment of the women that came in twerking, but when you walk into his establishment in Chicago versus Dallas, it's completely different. When you go into Chicago, they're patting people down before you come into the restaurant. In Dallas, you don't have that, but it is a little bit more stricter when it comes to attire that comes in. But that's what people are afraid of when it comes to the support. And sometimes the black owners would rather keep their own people out because of the type of negative attention that they're going to bring with that.
I actually agree with you. It's sad, but true. Is that at times I think part of it is because we always feel that we are representing our entire race as individuals, right? Unfortunately, we don't have the luxury of one of us being looked at as an individual, right? Where other groups have that opportunity. So if somebody else from a different group cuts up, as a collective, it's just that one crazy guy, right? Because they don't have the same kind of negative stereotypes that surround their culture, right? So like for instance, if an Asian guy cuts up, everybody's like, oh, it's just that one individual, because as a collective they're not seen as a bad group. Whereas I think for African Americans, with us, even though we know for a fact it's not majority of us that are, acting a certain way, but we're going to be judged by that measure, which is unfortunate. one of the things that I wanted to say too, in regards to like programs and stuff that may be available, what happens when the programs go well, especially if it's targeted for us at times, that those programs are then taken over. And what I mean by that is uh, well, they still have the program called Inroads. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that program, but Inroads was a program that was targeted for African American students, like before they went to college, to end up like if they pursued certain type of careers that may be in the like business or something like that, that they actually get trained, right? So they would, if they're going to go into corporate America, so they would teach them like different types of social skills, partner them with a specific company in the field that they actually wanted to, work in. Like if you wanted to be a CPA, things like that. And they would partner those students with companies, and they would learn, like, even just going to a restaurant, how do you order? The forks and plates and spoons, how all of that is. You don't, you wait for the CEO, whoever, to see what they order first, to see if you can drink while you're, eating, like just a whole bunch of stuff that you would not know growing up in an underprivileged situation. That program did very well. But then what happened is, instead of it now targeting just African Americans, because it was doing so well, they expanded to other minority groups. But typically, I think it was mostly like black and brown to begin with. And then what happens is, then you have other minority groups that may already have been doing well, and they see this as an opportunity and they take advantage of it. And then it kind of pushes out the initial targeted group that they were trying to help to begin with. Another program that is available that I know a lot of schools don't invest in, speaking about entrepreneurship, that Ikene was talking about, that it was a program that was called NIFTY, the National Federations of Teaching Entrepreneurship. And it was actually started by a guy who actually taught in the South Bronx. I think his name was Steve Mariotti. Yeah, Steve Mariotti. And he literally, being in the South Bronx, he started that program because he was an entrepreneur, and he used it as a way to improve like the academic performance, because for the at-risk youth, because he felt like his idea was based on the fact that they can use their street smarts in order to develop their own businesses. Because when you think about it, when you're selling drugs, that's a business. And so what he did is he capitalized on that negative aspect of what was going on in that environment to turn it into something positive, and created a whole entrepreneurship program for students. And so if we can get programs like that in our schools, that would also be another avenue to kind of deter some of the stuff that occurs in our communities, and promote entrepreneurship among us, because we are trained to work for other people as opposed to working for ourselves. But if you don't have the knowledge and how to do that, it's easier to work for somebody else because that conditioning is already happening.
Okay. Thank you for that, Ms. Sager. I do want to highlight, Ram Reese, I guess this is what we were discussing, but he did make a couple comments. He said, what Black businesses are successful that keep Black people out? He also said, sound like you seek the white fraternal hand. Who are they making you look bad to? Why do you care how other groups perceive you? Are they your masters? This infers that you believe other groups will continuously be above you, so you have to tiptoe the line accordingly. This is why younger people tuned out. It reeks weakness. And instead of establishing power, the focus is on how others perceive you.
And that's where the shit changed for Kanye. Like, back in 2013, 14, he was trying to explain stuff to us, which, we looked at as rich nigga problems, but he was trying to break into the fashion world, as a black artist. Already, if you start out, and his profession was a rapper, and producer, there's already a certain stigma toward you, just like with Terrence Howard, as far as him, you know, speaking on science and the periodic table and, space itself. Like, they're looking at him like, who the hell is this actor who was in goddamn Hustle and Flow trying to tell us who've been in here for years, So when Kanye's trying to break into the fashion world, the people who were the head of the fashion world were people that he looked to, that he wanted to validate him. And most of those were like Asian and white, males and females. So when they say he was seeking like white validation, at a point, those were the only people he had to look at. But once he got in there and then he realized that they were putting up all these barriers, he stopped seeking it. He went, he kind of just went crazy, and was like, yo, F all these people. These are the people that we're giving all of our money to. They don't give a damn about us.
So would you say just around the world period that there's always going to be some form of hierarchy?
I think the message that they were saying is we shouldn't care how we look to them. It's easier said than done, especially when you've been programmed for so long. I feel the same way you feel, JR. If I'm in a place and then somebody comes in, pants hanging off their ass, smelling like weed, internally, based on how I was programmed, that's how I feel. Not to say that it's
I'm gonna tell you, I just don't like the way it smells. I mean, like the after effect of it. It just stink to me.
Thank you for saying that. We needed to hear a black man say that.
I mean, it's a different smell when you're actually engaging in it, but afterwards, it just reminds me, put me in that mind state of like Black and Miles. Like whenever you put a Black and Miles out, if you did smoke it and then it just sits, it's like that shit stank. It is what it is. I just don't want to smell it. It starts to give me a headache.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I feel the same way. Pants hanging off the ass.
I mean, he just looks sloppy. I mean, he kind of looked like so I don't want to say nothing, man, 'cause it just might go might go the wrong way.
But there's probably other white people
overlap. He was definitely overlapping into the other seats, and I just wanted to enjoy a comfortable ride. I didn't feel like dealing with it today. I was already on the end, which is going to push me further on the end, and I'm gonna keep getting bumped because now I can't lean over to here because he there. But on top of that, he smelled like this, and he came on last. I'm just like, bro. I'm like, you got to be here early. You got to be on, and so you can pick what seat you want to pick. So we don't have to suffer. When you come on there and it's down to the last seats, we all looking like, damn, bro.
JR said, pick the struggle. You can't be fat and stink. What's wrong with you?
Okay, guys, let me say something real quick so that I will attend to my little girl. Let me put it this way. Some people are saying that something about perception. Let me be honest with you guys, man. I don't know how I'm going to tell Black people, both in Nigeria and in the US, about this. Image is everything. Image is everything. Character matters a lot. If you want to add hood, ghetto, slum, anything, whatever you call it in your country, act it and stay where you are. Act it in your hood. But when you have to come to the general public, respect yourself. Respect yourself. Image matters. You can't be an asshole in your house and an asshole in the street. I'm sick and tired of when grown people in their 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s still want to act like little childish nonsense. It's stupid. The way you dress, the way you talk in the public, the way you speak proper, act proper, be mannered. There is a reason why they call it mannered. It's not for fun, it's not for aesthetics, it's for character and attitude. Yes, we have to create our own award. Validation from white people is not good, it's not the ultimate, but you still have to do things properly. The reason why a lot of people don't watch BET Award is because it's trashy. The same thing with SS Magazine. You go to SS Magazine, SS Festival. They went to FS Festival last year. They turned into a sex and booty clapping and twerkers or whatever they call it festival. Non-classic. You have to act like a decent human being. That's what it is. I don't know why we should be begging people to be decent, to act right. It doesn't make any sense, any sense at all. And the other thing is this: Black people don't do selective association. You have to associate with the right person. You can't associate with every Black person on it. You pick and choose who you associate with. I don't like every Black person on earth, and I don't want to associate with every Black person. I choose my friends. My friends don't choose me. That's what I do. I choose who I associate with. You, the rest of you, go to hell. If you don't want to learn how to be a mannered human being, go to hell. I don't give a fuck. Then dress accordingly, because what you got to understand is that your outward appearance matters a great deal. I dress well. I'm a fashion designer. I'm a businessman. I'm a mechanical and aerospace engineer. But as an engineer, I don't come out there with unbrushed teeth. A lot of engineers smell like shit. I don't do that because guess what? I want to look good. I want to smell good. You see what I'm saying? Then another thing is this. It's a big problem when people don't want to learn. Learn. Knowledge is power. I don't go to church, but this is what the Bible teaches you. Wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. You have to have those three things if you want to succeed in life. Wisdom is for you to be able to discern. Knowledge is something you acquired. It's not given. You must acquire knowledge if you want to be able to discern. Then understanding is something you retain when information is passed down to you. You retain whatever you retain shows your capability to understand. I'm sick and tired of how Black people want everything to be handed to their goddamn asses or goddamn hands. You have to go there and get it. Nobody's going to give it to you. White people didn't get it. They have to rob countries. And they're still robbing countries up to today. They're the greatest criminals on earth. And they're robbing the whole world. They make two people fight each other so that they can supply them weapon. They don't give a damn about your life. If they can do this shit to Palestinians and the Middle East and trying to get China and the Philippines and Taiwan to fight each other and try to take over Japan indirectly, you think they give a fuck about Africa? They don't give a fuck about you. And you shouldn't give a fuck about them. They all they know is about enterprise. So you treat people how they treat you. They know enterprise, you deal with them in an entrepreneurial manner. That's it.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that if I could, because I agree with what he said. The lack of dignity. I don't know why we don't prioritize showing up as dignified people. Like I said earlier, the community is dead because no one's prioritizing. We don't have the same values. We don't have the same upbringing. Our kids, a lot of these kids are being raised by screens. Most of these babies can't read no more and they still getting passed along. So we got illiterate. I remember I'm a first generation American. I grew up in Jamaica with my grandmother. When my grandmother died, she still didn't know how to read. I remember thinking, being so grateful to be able to read to my grandmother. That was like one of our favorite pastimes. I used to think that was something that was for, immigrants. No, that was the lack of literacy, to the point where my mom and I started building a school on our land in Jamaica to fight that problem there. To now know that this is not a third world country, this is not a poor country, but our babies are not reading anymore. Our babies are not being taught to have manners, to address your elders as miss, sir, madam. You know what I mean? Like that, like I get having fun, like, but nothing's sacred no more. No one wants to keep things off the screen. It's not even so much about how you look to white people. Like, where's the self-respect? Like, I remember growing up in Brooklyn too. Me and my auntie them, we used to live on 34th Avenue D back when basement parties were the thing. The only time us young girls could wind up ourselves and have fun with our family was in the house with our cousins, our girl cousins, and our girl aunties. Because we're Caribbean. So, you know, we wine, we dance, whatever. But we knew better than to take it outside and to be inappropriate in front of no man. We knew better than to be, you know, in the midst of adult conversations, acting like we were grown. We knew better than to sit on no man's lap, regardless of if he was a older cousin or a family member. There were just certain things that, like, and I understand there's a culture thing too. You know what I mean? So we're not gonna dig into all of that. But like, there were just certain things. Kids were raised. We were reared. We need to get back to rearing our babies. Some of these adults, it's lost for it. Like, it's lost. It's over for them. I know I went to etiquette training. I have that part of my curriculum in my performing arts program. I do think a lot more kids need to get into etiquette training. And I do think that a lot more young boys need to, their parents need to enroll them in programs where they can get some mentoring and stuff from older guys and older men within the community. So that's my share to add on to what Akeem said.
Ruthie, raise your finger.
Yeah, I would say that we're just going to have to leave some people behind. A lot of us do agree on a lot of things. So there's a saying that I'd rather run with 100 people than carry one on my back. We got to stop waiting for the people that don't want to change, that's closed-minded, and the people that's open-minded start doing things, getting out there, doing. You can do just like you can do schools in Jamaica. Schools can happen here. We can do our own thing, and nobody can stop us if it's a bunch of us. But as soon as we got one leader, all of a sudden they disappear. So if all of us get active, we could be unstoppable. That's all I want to say.
Yeah.